Hey guys, welcome back to the FFP. My name is Christian, and you know what? The NFL draft just got finished up, and so I'm really excited. I want to hop into this. I thought it'd be a really great time to do a mock draft and have you guys join me pick by pick as I kind of choose my players, and ultimately, hopefully, I can show you guys my process for evaluating players and putting together a championship roster and really what it looks like to be well organized. And we can just talk about some general draft tips. Number one for fantasy draft tip would be do mock drafts. Get really comfortable with the amount of players that are out there and when they're going to be out there and such. But that's really what we're going to do today. And I do this for you guys, but also for me. So I've got a piece of paper and a pen here, and I'm going to be taking notes myself because that's really what these mock drafts are for. I have a lot of people come to me all the time during the offseason and say, hey man, look at this mock draft. I think I got all this talent. And it's like, great, but it's a mock draft. That's not your real team. So my question for you isn't how good did your roster turn out? What did you learn? What players fell? What players got picked early? You know, what kind of pieces of information and clues can you pick up on so that when you go into your actual draft, you are the most prepared person in the room and you're really ready for anything that can be thrown at you? Because believe me, I play a lot of fantasy. I probably play more fantasy football than 95% of you guys out there, and I have been really surprised at some drafts. And when you're not ready for those surprises, it will throw off your whole season. There's a lot of pressure in the draft, it seems. You know, I mean, let's be honest, you can't win your league by having a good draft, but if you have a bad draft, you pretty much can't win it. That's sort of the way it goes. But that's what we're going to do today. I'm actually going to hop off. You're not going to see me. I'm going to put up a screen recording of my computer so you guys can watch everything that I'm seeing and everything that I've got going on. But hopefully that'll be fun. We'll take some notes, we'll learn a little bit, and we'll talk a little fantasy philosophy. Let's get right into it. All right, so first thing I thought we'd do is I'm just going to go with Fantasy Pros. That's where I've been doing my mock drafts lately. If you have another site that you like to do your mock drafts at, let me know, and we can definitely try to do one in a future episode. But we'll go and start a draft, and we'll get our settings going. For me, I'm going to go with a PPR league, 12 teams. And really the important setting that you need to know is, of course, what pick. You can randomize if you want. I'm going to give myself the first pick in the draft in a snake draft simply because I'm going to go all over the board. This year we're going to do a lot of mock drafts. We're going to pick at 12, at 1, at 6. We're going to pick all over the place. So let's just start with the first pick and kind of see what that's like and see what we're working with. I also want to go on here and get my settings. So 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, whatever. You see how that all works. And then we'll just come down and we'll start our draft. Just remove those out of the way. And of course, a really important thing for drafting is getting your settings right. And so one of the things that I would do is, make sure that you have right over here. I like to keep the draft log up. That's what I like to see. So we're going to be able to look at the side here and just pay attention to the players that have been going. And then they've got their cheat sheet on here, their draft board and pick predictor, and they've got all sorts of things. For me, I bring my own cheat sheet. I'm not going to pull one up right now, but when you get to your draft, absolutely use a cheat sheet. We will be offering one that you can download from our website so you can go through that and keep track of the players that are out there. But we'll go on here with suggestions, and you can even go on, of course, and favorite players too, so they'll come up later on. We're not really going to bother much with that, but when you get into your actual draft, I would do that. That's a great thing to do because there are going to be a lot of sleepers. There are going to be a lot of people late in the draft that you may forget about. Favorite them so that you don't forget about them for those late round picks, because you start getting in the 12th and 13th round, yeah, it's pretty easy to slip up and forget. But first reason I want to give myself the first pick was I think it's an easy pick right here. Boom, you got to go Christian McCaffrey. Not only was he the number 1 fantasy running back last year, but he was the number 1 fantasy running back, PPR and standard, by such a degree that he could have played just 12 games and still had the most fantasy points among running backs. I mean, that's just how crazy dominant he was. So we're going to go out and pick him. And then it should really quickly simulate all the way through the next picks. And we'll go through and just kind of get a feeling for every single player that's been taken. And we'll see what we're here to work with. So we'll go to the cheat sheet. And this is nice. It does keep track of the players that have been taken for you. So that is nice. I believe if you use their, if you pay, you can make your own cheat sheet. And that will probably be a good way to get this all set up perfectly. But anyways, looking at it, there's still some running backs out there. There's not a lot of running backs out there, so I'm going to actually take another running back. I get back-to-back picks. So for me, I'm going to take another running back. Then the question is, do I grab a wide receiver or a tight end? For me, I probably got to grab a tight end because George Kittle's out there and he is far too good to pass up. But I also need a running back because if I don't take one now, I'm not going to get a talented one. So we're looking at it Fournette or Sanders. This is a PPR league. Fournette was better last year, but his situation ultimately is worse. I kind of like Sanders more, so that's who I'm gonna go with right now. Again, don't obsess too much over who you've taken or who you are taking or what your team looks like. It's more about taking notes and learning and getting a feel for it. If you are having a good mock draft, that is a good sign, but it's not sort of the end-all be-all, so to speak. But those are our picks. Just took Miles Sanders, and we'll come up here and take George Kittle, and then it'll go through the next round, and we can look at the talent left. I was not surprised to see this many running backs go. You shouldn't be either. I was kind of surprised to see how many wide receivers also went because only one tight end went all the way through the second round. That really seems to be based on the league that you're in. But now we've got to go after a wide receiver for sure because we don't have any. But there are definitely some options, and we do get to pick back to back. If we come up over here, we can click rosters and see we've got our running backs and our tight end sets, and now we get to go after our wideouts. We get to pick anything that we want. And there's some really good options out there. I love Jarvis Landry. That's probably one guy I'm going to go after. And then it's difficult. I love Terry McLaurin, but his quarterback situation's not great. Same with Chark. He's a very talented wide receiver, but his quarterback situation is not great. So for me, it's kind of tempting to go Tyler Boyd and Jarvis Landry as my first two picks. And again, I'm not going to overthink it. We're just going to draft both of those guys and call it good. Again, the reason for that being I'm not going to get too obsessed with it. We're just going to take these guys and move on. Oops, what'd I do there? All right. So now we've got two wideout set. We've got a running back set. I feel really great about that. And it is part of my philosophy to very frequently take a tight end extremely early in the draft. And that's just because, and you guys know this if you watch the channel, there's not a lot of tight ends out there and the talent goes quick. One thing that I would say is you notice I'm here on the cheat sheet. I can see more names at once on the cheat sheet, and that's important to me because the suggested names over here, they'll give you about 4 names, and it's never really the top guys out there. It's not anyone that I want to target, so we're going to use the cheat sheet because I think it's just a little bit better. Their suggestions are they're nice if you don't know what you're doing. I know what I'm doing, so I just rather see all the names at once. I think it's a lot more convenient. So for those of you probably wondering, I know a lot of people love their quarterbacks, and looking at it right now, you're probably saying top 7 quarterbacks off the board. Are you going to take a quarterback? I'm probably not. I mean, Kirk Cousins is down there at 20. He could be a good quarterback. Still got Ryan Tannehill, Matthew Stafford. I think people forget Matthew Stafford is still on the board, and he'll be there for a while probably. And he was on pace to tie Lamar Jackson with passing touchdowns. He's got some great weapons there. Solid veteran quarterback who's going to have quite a bit of garbage time numbers this year again. So I'm going to wait on that as well. What we do need is probably secure one more running back and a wide receiver. So that's what we're going to look at and see what we've got. Already, we can tell that the talent is getting thin. It is interesting. His running backs are very thin. James Conner is there. I don't trust his health. I don't. Kareem Hunt's there. I can't really see taking him right now. So I'm looking at a guy like David Montgomery, Raheem Mostert, Marlon Mack, or Ronald Jones. Those are probably the top guys I'm looking at. I don't like Marlon Mack because they just took Jonathan Taylor in the draft. The Colts did, and I really do like Jonathan Taylor. I think he's going to eat into Marlon Mack's touches quite a bit, especially in an offense that I don't trust. I'm going to avoid David Montgomery because this is a PPR league. In a standard league, I might lean his way a little bit more than normal. So for me, it comes down to Raheem Mostert or Ronald Jones. I like Ronald Jones. For me, he is a possible sleeper, but in the beginning, early in the third round, Tampa Bay went out and took Keyshawn Vaughn at running backs. That is a bit of a sleeper concern there as far as how that's going to eat into Ronald Jones's touches, whereas Raheem Mostert, San Francisco just traded Matt Breida away, clearing up that backfield about 500 rushing yards. So we're going to go take Mostert right here and secure our backup running back. Now, because I have 2 picks in a row, it doesn't matter the order. That's why I didn't take a wide receiver first, when many of you were probably wondering why I didn't. But now we're going to go to the wideouts and see what we got going on here. There's still a lot of talent. We see a lot of rookies mixed in here where I probably wouldn't take a rookie quite yet. And we do have to, of course, remember this is a PPR league. So what we're looking at, Julian Edelman, I mean, if Brady was still there, he would be gone already. He is tempting to take, but I'm not huge on him. It does make me nervous. I kind of like Brandon Cooks, but there's some health concerns. If you really wanted to gamble for a huge high upside guy, Sterling Shepard is really tempting. He definitely is. But let's just scroll through. I want to keep looking because you know, this is exactly what we do these mock drafts for, is the picks around here when, you know, you're not really quite sure what you're looking at. Allen Lazard, I'm tempted to take him, but according to his ADP and everything, he's not going to go for a while. He's going to be on this board for a significant amount of time, so we're going to leave him there. We're going to draft him later if we can, because I think Allen Lazard could definitely falls into that sleeper category of a guy who could break out for sure. So ultimately, that's the tough thing when you're looking at it is, hey, we've got some wide receivers here, but all these guys seem pretty interchangeable and replaceable. I don't know if there's any one guy out here that I absolutely must have. So I'm actually kind of tempted to look back at the running backs or see what wideouts there are left. And looking at the quarterbacks, I'm going to go after Matt Ryan. I think I'm going to draft Matt Ryan right now. And I like Drew Brees. I like Aaron Rodgers, Brady. There's a lot of talent out there at quarterback still. But Matt Ryan's a guy who is going to get some garbage time stats, and he's got some great weapons. So we're gonna secure a quarterback right now. But again, I think in a typical draft, I probably would wait and not take a quarterback now. I do just want to see what this draft is going to turn out like if I end up taking a QB at the top of the 7th round. All right. So yeah, you can see even more running backs went, and that's starting to get pretty thin. We do have one on our bench, and we do still need a wide receiver. Let me see what's at the running back position, because again, you really hate to not have a running back. That could really hurt. I mean, I've had seasons before where I had Le'Veon Bell and Jamal Charles, who were both top 5 fantasy running backs, and they both got hurt. When that happens, you're kind of screwed. That was one of the few times I didn't make playoffs. It really hurt me. But scrolling down further, the wide receivers getting a little bit thinner. You see how many rookie receivers are going, though. Jerry Jeudy went, CeeDee Lamb went, and that's surprising to me, honestly, to see those guys go unproven over some of these other guys. Like Marvin Jones had a good year last year. He really did, and he's kind of tempting to go in that slot. And honestly, he might be the safest pick to secure a wide receiver 3 that's going to have some value, not a ton of value, but definitely going to have some value. So let's go after Marvin Jones. We can take some sleepers and some studs after this, but it does secure us one more receiver whose production I can feel safe about, because that definitely matters. So now we'll keep scrolling, and let's go back to those running backs. We do need one more running back now, and I want to get him before they are gone. And this is where it's interesting. Typically, Philip Lindsay would already be gone, but they added Melvin Gordon, so that's going to hurt his value. Matt Breida just went to Miami. That's exciting. There could be some value there, but then, you know, that's the worst offensive line in the NFL, so I'm not really liking that a whole lot. Ultimately, looking at it, this is not a great situation to be picking in. Tariq Cohen, Jordan Howard, Darrell Henderson, none of those guys, not really biting on any of them right now. But of course, you can see the rookie running backs. That's the other thing. I didn't draft a rookie running back because I had 2 studs, and then I went and took Raheem Mostert. But DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor, a lot of those rookie guys are already off the board. So is Clyde Edwards-Helaire of Kansas City. So let's keep looking down. I want to go further down. See, there are some studs. Like if you want to gamble on a Rashad Penny, you could wait a few rounds and absolutely do that. Zach Moss of Buffalo, not a great situation, not maybe the best talent, but he's out there. A.J. Dillon, another guy, going to be a solid backup, but he's not going to be worth taking at this point in the draft. So, I mean, in a PPR league, we could lean James White. I don't really trust that Patriots offense, but he's a really stud PPR guy that has some consistent production. He actually played better towards the end of the season. Right now, I'm just going to go with Philip Lindsay, though, because I want to keep this draft moving and keep taking some notes. What we'll do at the end here is we'll look through all the picks, and we'll do more of a round-by-round evaluation of when players are going. That's my favorite part of these mock drafts, is just looking back to see when players are going and when guys are falling. It's hard to, in the heat of the moment, pay attention to what other teams are doing, but if you can wait till after and then give yourself some time to really stop and look at it. So looking at the wide receivers, John Ross is out there, Allen Lazard's out there. I like Allen Lazard. I will probably take him right now because we've got 2 bench running backs, no bench receivers, and he's a guy who has really high upside, especially, again, playing in that offense as a second-year wide receiver that's really going to hopefully be quite a bit developed from last year. So we'll see how that's going to develop. It is a risk, but it's nice to know he's going to fall to this point in the draft. In fact, I'm curious, what point in the draft are we at right now? We're around 10, or around 11. We just finished round 10. And it is tempting for me right now to actually go and pick up a defense or a kicker. I do love to secure one or the other, and the reason for that being I like to stream a defense or a kicker, but I don't like to stream both. That's a little bit much to handle, and it wastes a lot of your priority in the waiver claims. And so it is nice to secure one nice defense or kicker so you don't have to worry about it later on. But I don't know if there's anybody out there that's just must have and no one's been taken yet. But that's the tough part about picking first. And that's the thing. If you're in a league where you know you have the first pick in the draft or the last, you already know what your draft is going to look like for the most part, because if you have the first pick, you are dealing with a major issue, and that is right now no defenses, no kickers have been taken. But by your next pick, they could be, all the top could be gone at kicker, or all the top defenses could be gone, and that's really interesting. So let's keep looking at some of the other positions. We'll come back to this. There's no wide receivers I really like. We just got a solid bench guy right there. At least I feel like, and I've always said this in the past, if he busts, that's okay. I'll go in the waiver claim and I'll find a new wideout. You can't always find a new running back, but there'll always be another guy out there to catch the ball for you. Let's maybe see if there's one more back out there that's worth taking, right? I mean, secure one more bench running back, feel pretty good about it, then we can actually finally sort of move on. And Matt Bright is kind of tempting. Latavius Murray is kind of tempting. This is interesting. Miles Sanders, I think some people would be tempted to take Boston Scott as a handcuff to Miles Sanders. I'm not going to do that. Let me know if you guys think that is something that you would do. Based on upside, Rashad Penny is out there. It'd be nice to snatch him right now while we still can. But coming off that injury, I don't think he's going to be taken right now. I think we can wait. I say we go lock up a defense, and let's draft Pittsburgh's defense. I think they're going to have huge value this year. Although I kind of a sneaky defense I like right now is Tampa Bay. I believe weeks 10 onward, they were one of the top teams in sacks. In fact, I think they led all teams in sacks. And so, they could be sneaky there with how effective that offense is going to be, but it is a bit of a risk. So let's stick with Pittsburgh and we'll secure our defense here. And honestly, thinking about it now, any advice I'd give to somebody, because people aren't very familiar with kickers. I force myself to be because of running this FFP channel, but if you were going to pick a position, I'd probably pick a kicker early so that you don't have to dig down into just the deep kickers that you don't know a whole lot about. That might be probably a good strategy to go with. Now, I'm really curious. We haven't done this much this draft, which I should probably do a little bit more of, and that is just scroll through and see the picks, who's been taken since I last went up. So let's do that because I want to get a feel for it. We took a defense. Nobody followed suit. That is interesting. Nobody took a kicker, suggesting it's probably a little too early for that. However, I know if you're in a more casual league, it's more common to take defenses early, and the reason for that being people in casual leagues don't know as much. They get uncomfortable easy, and they just want to go with something that's familiar. And they know team names, so that's familiar. They'll take that. I've seen a couple of guys going off the board. Nobody really interesting. T. Higgins, actually at round 11, pick 8 is interesting. A little bit risky, but definitely has some upside there playing with Joe Burrow. I'm excited to watch that Bengals offense for sure. James Washington. It's crazy. I mean, we're looking at Matthew Stafford, round 12. He was still out there. Look at how long I could have waited to take him. I could have waited quite a while. Ben Roethlisberger just went. Jared Goff just went. So, yeah, there's definitely something to note from this is there's still a lot of quarterbacks we can wait on. Definitely a lot of quarterbacks we can wait on. But we'll come back now. I think we need to secure a wide receiver. Like I said, we got one bench receiver, and we need to get one more guy that I feel okay about. I like Hunter Renfrow. He is a dependable wideout. I'm going to go with him. In fact, I am shocked that he made it another 2 rounds. I felt like he was just slightly earlier, but now I'm kind of surprised he fell this far. So now we'll hop up over to kickers. I'm going to stick with what I said earlier. Let's grab a kicker while we can. I'm going to go with Harrison Butker. I trust that Kansas City offense more than I trust the Baltimore offense, so I trust his fantasy value more. If you're going to pick a kicker before other teams, you definitely need to make sure that you're getting a reliable guy. But now we've got our whole starter set, and we feel good about that, and we've got 2 bench spots left, So everybody knows these last 2 spots, our team should be locked up and secured. All we're going to do now is take some shots on a few guys that we like. Again, pretty straightforward, pretty obvious, but we're just going to take some gambles. I'm not going to go after any rookie wide receivers, I don't think. I'm not huge on rookie wideouts. It's just statistically, it's been proven that it takes a couple of years to really kind of develop into who you are. In fact, it's probably 3 to 4 years before you really see a wide receiver, who he's going to be and how good he is going to be in the NFL. If you really feel like he's going to get signed, you could snag Brown at the last round at the very end of the draft. But there's a lot of talent gone right now for sure. N'Keal Harry is interesting, a little tempting. So is Paris Campbell. Paris Campbell had a few monster games last year. For that reason, he's kind of interesting to go after. Cole Beasley probably would have been a bit more tempting in a PPR league, but now he falls to the wide receiver 3 because of the addition of Diggs. So for me, that's a pass. I don't really trust Randall Cobb. This is an interesting situation, all in all, just looking at it. I think Denzel Mims of the rookie receivers left could be one of those guys to look at, but I'm not huge on that. I probably will go Mims. I think we should, and for that reason, playing second across from Rashad Perriman, he's not going to get a lot of attention, but he definitely has some of the higher upside among the receivers coming in this draft class, and we'll just see. It's again, we're just stashing a guy on our bench to see, like, watch him and hopefully take a shot on him. But looking at it right now, you can see my roster on the screen and the players that I'm working with. Of course, I'd love to hear from you guys of what you think of how this draft is going. And then once we're done with this last pick, we'll head over and look at just the overall flow of the draft and kind of what we're working with. Really, our last pick doesn't matter because we've accomplished what we wanted to accomplish, so to speak. You guys know me. I'm not going to draft a backup quarterback, a backup tight end, kicker, or defense. I want to stash on some talent. That's what I want. I want to go out there and grab one more guy that I feel okay about. So I'm actually going to take Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown is a mess. But if he were to get signed somewhere, right, if he were to actually end up playing, he would be totally worth it. And this is just the sort of pick that I would take at the end of the draft. Stash a guy on my bench, and the worst thing that happens is I just drop him and make a free agent move. Because at this point, there's not a whole lot of talent out there, so it's not like I'm going to be, getting a stud starter. Any guy you're drafting at the last round is going to be a bit of a gamble. You might as well gamble on the guy with the highest upside. So now we'll scroll through here, and I love that they color code this over here because you can kind of get a feel for it. You see how many running backs go early, and then boom, massive drop off. So in the first round, there's 10 running backs taken, and in the second round, just 3 running backs. That's how fast they go. It is interesting to see Aaron Jones fall to the last pick in the first round. I would have loved to been right there. I would absolutely love taking Aaron Jones at that spot and then grabbing another guy there from Green Bay like Devontae Adams, or securing Leonard Fournette or Miles Sanders. I really do like Miles Sanders, but looking at this right now, I fully believe that this is what a draft will look like. Dalvin Cook and Austin Eckler both look like they got taken a little bit early. Dalvin Cook, he's talented enough to be taken there, but he's such an injury risk that he does make me nervous. Even last year was his healthiest season of his career, and he was still banged up. That's why I wouldn't mess with him there. I would pass on him, and I would probably pass on Eckler as well. I've got some just, general concerns with that offense. But as you can see, there's this just really solid sweet spot from rounds 2, 3, and 4 where tons and tons of receivers are being taken. And this is an interesting draft because the first few quarterbacks taken are Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Excuse me, I dropped my pen there. And they're getting taken in the 3rd round. If you're in a competitive draft, that is very likely going to happen. But I don't know, that's where you really got to know your league. If you're in a church league draft or drafting with family and friends, Lamar and Pat could probably go a lot sooner than that, so I wouldn't be surprised at all. There's still some valuable running backs pretty late. I mean, we're looking at 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round, and Mark Ingram is still on the board. 6th round, and I took Raheem Mostert, Jonathan Taylor in the 7th. Hint, he's that. I kind of like Jonathan Taylor. I really do. He's tempting right now to take. I think he has huge upside, but is definitely riskier. Honestly, even just being in the 3rd round and taking Leonard Fournette at the end of the 3rd round, That's going to be really, really interesting to look at. So as we look at some other things, Odell Beckham was drafted too early. He will not be drafted that high in most leagues. I really don't think so. Maybe I'll be wrong on that. Let me know if you disagree with me on that. Same with AJ Green, T.Y. Hilton. There's a lot of guys who got taken too early. But that's going to happen in any draft. Looking at this right now as we look through these first couple of rounds, yes, some players were picked too early, but that is not uncommon. Even in your most competitive leagues, you will get really smart fantasy players thinking that they're super clever and super smart, and then they go out and make a mistake because they get too hyped on a guy and they take him too early. That's probably the biggest thing people are going to do wrong in your draft, is just getting too excited, thinking they're too smart, wanting to draft that sleeper, and they reach for a guy a little bit early. For example, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. There will probably be, in every league you're in, there will be a running back, a rookie wideout, or a running back or a quarterback to go in the first 3 rounds, and it'll be too early. So looking at it, being that it's a snake draft that way, they picked in the middle of the 3rd round, and Gurley went after him. Leonard Fournette went after him. So did Singletary, Melvin Gordon, Mark Ingram, Raheem. I mean, so many talented running backs went after him that is definitely a bit of a big mistake, an obvious mistake. Not everyone's going to make it, but you've got 12 teams in your league. Those sort of mistakes will happen. So we'll go now and check out my roster again. Curious to see what you guys think of what we're looking at here. Running backs are set. Our quarterback is solid. I mean, Matt Ryan was on an absolute tear last year. Our wide receivers are interesting because they're not great. They're not elite. They're not the best receiving core in the league. But Jarvis Landry really stepped up last year, had the best year of his career. Tyler Boyd as well. And Marvin Jones is in the same situation he was last year, where he had a fairly good season. Not a great season, but he's a reliable number 3 that with the right matchups can be played, as we need to put in other guys there as well. This does just show our starters, which kind of stinks. But we've got our defense, our kicker, and our tight end figure out with an elite tight end. We picked our kicker and our defense early, and we still got some fair late round talent. Not the most talent late round, but again, I like to leave one spot at the end of my draft on a just crazy wild gamble, because I always want one spot open to make moves in free agency and draft a player that I'm okay dropping. I know that sounds weird, but I like to do that. I love to have that freedom, and it feels really great. So that's what I want to hear from you guys, is just generally, how do you feel about this mock draft? Generally, I think mock drafts are underrated and overrated at the same time. Underrated that people aren't using them correctly and they're not understanding what they're for. Overrated, I think a lot of people get hyped on their mock drafts and they don't really understand what it means to do it, and they get excited about the players they picked, but ultimately they don't come ready for the draft. So hopefully you guys had fun doing this with me. I definitely had fun doing it, and I'm hoping to do these more. I'd love to do a mock draft every month as we can continue to watch the NFL trends, learn a few things, and I want to do some running back heavy drafts, some receiver heavy drafts, wait on a QB early, ignore tight end, just do a lot of crazy wild mock drafts to just see how they turn out. I think you have to experiment to learn, and this is the ultimate experimentation ground, the perfect place to do it. So guys, thank you so much for watching. You have a great day, and God bless.